So question 18, consider the equation
P percentage of A equals B, and then they give you an example, 20% of 40 equals 8,
and then they give you another example,
150% of 22 is 33. Now what do you notice is the difference between these two numbers? Not actually calculating the difference, but what do you know? Which one's bigger or which one's smaller out of these two? Which one's biggest and which one's smallest?
40's bigger.
So this one here is bigger, isn't it? Okay. What do you notice about these two here?
33's bigger.
This one now is bigger. So what changes back here? The percentage. What are you noticing? That when the percentage is under 100%, what happens with A compared to B?
A's bigger.
A is, I'll get this right, is greater than B when the percentage, or P, is less than 100%. Yeah?
Yeah.
And what do you notice here?
When the percentage is over 100.
When the percentage is greater than 100%,
Like, B is bigger.
B is greater than A, or A is less than B. And so you're using what you find in the explanation, which is all of this here, okay? You're using that information in order to direct you with this other stuff here.
Yeah.
Alright? So if we go back to this, what is the value? Is that the question? What is the value of P
Yeah.
when A actually equals B? So in these ones, A is less than B, A is greater than B. What percentage is it where A will equal B? Could you try and work it through on your calculator? When it's just 20%, this number's much bigger than this number, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it's 150, this number is a fair bit smaller. So you've got to work somewhere between these two, because what you're trying to get is A to be equal to B. So if this works out to be 100, you need this to be 100.
So be in the middle of 150 and 20?
It may be in the middle, it may be skewed to one edge, but you've just got to work it out so that whatever you give to P, A and B equal.
Yeah.
So you're giving this a value. It might be 70%. If you went 70% of, say, 10, does the answer equal 10? That's what you need it to do. You might have it as 80% because that didn't work. You might have 100%. You might have whatever. Okay? So
Yeah.
it's working through that. And that was question 18, page 36. So we're looking at question 15 and 16 on page 40, and this is relating to GST.
So what you're looking at the information you're given, Ella, alright, and the information that you're given is
The total price of an item, so let's call it item A. The total price of that is $120, yeah? And they're asking you how much, so the total price of the item comes in plus GST. Okay, so the item is we don't know, but we do know that this is 10%. GST is always 10%. Is that in there? Yes, it is in the question. And that equals 120. That's the information we've got. Again, we're trying to demonstrate what we've got in the question we put in mathematical terms. Alright? So they're asking for you how much GST paid on to the nearest cent. You want to know what the actual item cost. Okay? If you can work out what the item cost, then you can work out how much GST was paid on it, because it's 10% of that. So what's 10% of the 120 to start with? So that's your thinking over here. 10% of $120. What would the next line look like, Ellen? What are you plugging into your calculator? 10 divided by 100, good. Times 120. What's that give you? $12. So the GST you paid is $12, yeah? How much did the item cost? $108. And you did that by doing 120 subtract the 12, and all of that should equal the 120, shouldn't it? Yeah. Okay? So now that you know this process, this here, you should be able to do 16 on your own as well. Alright? Does that make sense? Can I explain that better?
I got to the 12 bit.
So page 39, question 1. Okay. So any multiplier, okay, a multiplier relates to increasing something by a percentage or decreasing by a percentage, okay? And so the other day, and you'll need to go online to check it out, is I explained about multipliers in the past. But I'll explain it quickly again, but you can go and look at it again, okay? If I had to purchase something for $5, alright, but they're going to increase the cost by 20%, okay? If I had to pay 100% of that $5, how much would I have to pay? $5. But we're increasing the cost of this product by 20%. So I've got to pay the 100%. Oops. I've got to pay the 100%. Plus, I've got to pay another 20%. Now you could do this in one of two ways. You could find 20% of the $5. What is that? Do that, please, on your calculator. 20% of $5. So it's $1. And we said before that 100% of $5 is $5. So all up for this item, you would have paid $6. Yeah? You're comfortable with that, the parent? Okay. We could do it in 2 steps. 1, 2. And then add them together. But what we do is they're not always this easy, and we can run the risk of making an error because we're doing so many calculations. An easier thing to say is we're paying one whole of it. We're paying one whole of the $5, plus we're paying 0.2 of it. How did I get that? 100 over 100 is 1. Yeah? And 20 over 100, the extra 20%, remember 20%, anytime we see a number with a percent sign, is 20 for the number divided by the 100. That shouldn't be foreign to you. Yep. And that equals, we should know, is 0.2. So what we're doing is we're adding in the first instance our 1 plus our 0.2 instead of doing it in this section. So if we were to do this 1.2 times $5, do that on your calculator. You get the answer straight up. $6. when we're talking about increasing, it is the percentage, so on this occasion 20 divided by 100 plus the 1. So if we're increasing by 40%, what is our multiplier? It's 1.4. If we're increasing by 50%, 1.5. Okay? When we're decreasing, we're not actually getting one whole of it, are we? When we're decreasing, say we're decreasing this time by 20%, we could do the two steps again. We could find 20% of $5 and then do 5, take $1 would give us $4, yeah? Are you alright with that, Cheyenne? But instead of doing that, we're saying we're not actually getting a whole one of it. We're getting 0.2 less of the whole. Alright, so we're actually paying 0.8. Can you see that that's what we've done? 1 subtract our percentage. Alright, we're decreasing by, 20%. Okay, so 1 subtract 0.2 gives us 0.8. That's the process that we go through. So 0.8 of $5, 0.8 times $5 gives us 0.8 times $5 gives us our $4. There's a slower explanation on the